What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bringing you your MLB props for June the 25th. I'm distraught. I'm in mourning because CJ Cron did not hit a home run. And if you go look on What It Dong, he would have hit a home run in 25 of 30 ballparks, which just makes baseball so fun, am I right? You know, you could tout a guy, he could hit a home run in 25 ballparks, but the one ballpark he's playing in that night's on a home run. It's just crazy the way that baseball works that way, but sometimes that's just how it goes, man. Nothing you can do about it, nothing you can say about it. You just gotta roll with the punches. And you know, Justin Verlander was good. He pitched good. Severino, man, started off super hot. But we'll see what happens today. You know, I'm gonna talk about it now. I'm recording this before the Yankee-Houston game starts, but chances are by the time it comes out, it will have started. So we'll talk about Yordan briefly, but overall, I mean, you're not gonna get him into your lineups or your plays for today, more than likely. So won't touch on him too much, but you see Josh Naylor, Dansby Swanson, Freddie Freeman, Yordan Alvarez, Austin Hayes, Dalton Varsho, and Nick Castellanos are the guys I'll be talking about today. Starting at the top with Naylor. I do like Naylor a lot. He's up against Josh Witkowski, who's been a pretty good pitcher so far, and but he's not going to go very long for Boston, and that's where Boston's susceptible, man. That bullpen is not very good, and overall, I'd be willing to play Naylor. He's been playing very, very well. You can see 2 total bases per game, over a hit per game. He's been batting cleanup behind Amin Rosario, behind Jose Ramirez, like we talked about. 2 guys that have been very, very good this season. 11.25 over his last 7 days, and only a line of 5.5. So I don't hate it. You know, that Boston bullpen is not good overall. He has no history against them. You know, pretty new pitcher, hasn't had a ton of experience. He can pitch pretty well. He actually has pitched pretty well. But overall, I do expect there to be some runs. You see Jose Ramirez has a massive line, 8.5. They're projecting some runs to be in this game for sure, and I think that Naylor will be a beneficiary. Again, he does have to get a little bit more than a hit and an RBI, but I think he can definitely do that. He's a guy who can go for extra bases. You see 0.7 per game over his last 14 days. So I don't mind Naylor as another play. Then you get into this Atlanta and Dodgers game, like I talked about yesterday. Dansby Swanson was a guy I talked about. 7.5 is a very lofty total, but yesterday he did have 2 hits. You know, he's up against Mitch White, who is pretty good. He's been a guy who's been in and out of the rotation a little bit because of injuries, because they have a ton of talent there, obviously, for the Dodgers. I wouldn't mind mixing in Dansby Swanson. Like I said, man, another guy who had 2 hits yesterday, looked great. Still on fire. I believe he's like on an 8 or 9 game hit streak. So there's a lot of things to like there. And then on the other side, you have Freddie Freeman coming back, but up against Max Fried, who absolutely wrecked the Dodgers in the beginning of the season. He just pitched a gem, 8 strikeouts, faced 22 batters. I believe he only allowed 2 hits, no walks. Dude was phenomenal, and they obviously won that game. So I think that there's room to take the Dodgers, but the issue for me, right, with Fried overall is that the Dodgers actually hit him pretty well. So Trey Turner bats 300 against him. Justin Turner bats 300 against him. Bellinger is 3 for 10 against him. And so is Max Muncy, who actually bats 500 against him with a home run. But that's kind of the old Max Fried. They're facing the new Max Fried right now. So I do think there's definitely opportunity on the Dodgers. Like I said, Freddie Freeman, 18 points over his last 7 days, 13 over his last 14, obviously filling in for Mookie Betts in a major way right now. All those guys are really, really hot. Turner had a massive game yesterday with a home run and I believe a double. So he's playing out of his mind. Projected of 8. I don't hate it if you wanted to stack Dodgers, but I would probably not go crazy if you wanted to do like a Dansby, Freddie, and Turner stack. I do think that's a pretty good game stack, but I just don't think it's the right game environment with how well Fried is pitching, and especially against the Dodgers. He's pitched against them pretty well over the past 2 years, so I wouldn't be all in on that front. Then you get into Alvarez, who, you know, I'll quickly talk about him, but you're probably not going to be able to get him in anyways. He's just on fire. But the thing with him, it's interesting about him and Cole, is he does have those 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and then obviously the 286 average. Cole has been beating up a lot on the Rays, and so I'm curious to see what happens today, how he plays. He allowed 3 runs against Boston early in the season in Toronto. He allowed some runs against the White Sox, but, you know, Baltimore, Detroit, the Rays 3 times. It's just not great offenses. He's been really fortunate to have some pretty easy teams on the schedule so far. So overall, I think there could be room for Alvarez to do very well. And then Austin Hayes up against Lance Lynn. We talked about Lance Lynn when he faced Toronto. He pitched much better, and so that's why I'm not all in on Austin Hayes. I think that Lance Lynn could definitely put up a good outing at home again, pitching pretty well. Allowed a lot of hits, but not a lot of runs, and was able to get some strikeouts on top of that. I don't mind Baltimore, though. They're a way better offense people give them credit for. Like I talked about before, Ryan Mountcastle, a guy who's been hitting very well. Mancini can get involved. It's Mullins who hasn't been been so good right now. And so I think that's where they're struggling to score some runs. He's been their main guy, you know, at the top of the order, getting on base, stealing bases. So they need him to be all the way back for them to really thrive in that offense. Then getting into Dalton Varsho, who I do have projected as an under. He's a guy who recently I've been looking at his totals. He's been really, really bad. You know, you see 3.27 over his last 14 and 2 points over his last 7 days. He's just barely getting on base. You know, a hit, less than 1 total base per game, basically just slapping singles, 0.27 runs, 0.09 RBIs per game, and very little chance of an extra base hit. He's up against Alex Faedo, who is a pretty good pitcher. You know, he was a first-round draft pick out of Florida, but he's still, you know, getting his lumps. He's been hit hard a couple of times. He's not going to go very deep into the game. And obviously the Detroit bullpen, while improved, it's not really as good as it could be compared to some other bullpens. So I don't mind an under for Varsho. And then you're looking at Nick Castellanos, who is been god-awful all year, honestly. 6.55, 4.79, and 1.17 over his last 7 days. He's terrible. Like, there's really no way to put it. He's 0 for 9 against Blake Snell. Blake Snell is not going to go super deep into the game, but while Castellanos is a guy who used to crush lefties, he's not hit Blake Snell very well. He is hitting 297 against lefties this season, so there is a chance he goes over, but he does have a total of 7, which you can see is even above his season average, which is only 6.55, 4.79, like I mentioned, and 1.17 over the last 7 days. So there's lots of room for unders for Nick Castellanos. He's hitting 4th, cleanup on a very potent lineup with Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, but he's really shown to be a black hole in that lineup right now. So I think there's definitely a lot of room. I'd be looking potentially at both these unders. I think they are in good shape. Now, of course, last time I took India for an under, he hit a home run in the first inning. I'm hoping that's not the case today, but I do think that both these guys, the data says that there's a really good shot they do go under. So I don't hate it overall. Like I mentioned, Jordan's probably the best play. I do like Naylor a lot, and I'd be willing to mix in Dansby and Freddie Freeman. And then the other one that if you want to play him while he's not going to pop in this model is Willy Adames up against Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi's god-awful, man. You could take his over on his earned runs, which are at 2.5. You could take the under on his pitcher fantasy score. Like, he's going to get pummeled. He's allowed, I believe, 2 home runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. His ERA is a 9. He's allowed 17 hits over his last 4 starts this month. He's got a whip of over 2. He is getting just destroyed. The one thing he will get is strikeouts, right? So if he ends up striking a bunch of guys out because they're just swinging for the fences, he could get some points that way. But I think the earned runs is one that I really like. The only thing that scares me is he does have a quick hook. They're not going to let him throw forever out there. If he's struggling, they won't hesitate to pull him. But on top of that, that Jays bullpen is also terrible. So there's a lot of reasons to like overs for the Milwaukee Brewers today. I have their team total over. So again, another guy you could throw in there if you want to, but it's a tough slate for me today. Outside of the Brewers really killing the Blue Jays early in this game, there's not a ton that I like. You know, I was looking at a few bomb calls and things like that. Like Adames is a guy who pops. Tyrone Taylor is a guy that I was looking at as kind of a skeptical play. He has to have home runs in his last 2 games. Hoping to make it a third, but we'll see what happens. And that's it. You know, it's a weird slate. Not loving it today. A mix of aces and some other guys. Not a ton of great park matchups. Not a ton of factors that I really, really like. Some great games, but not a lot on the prop front as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. And I will be back on Monday. I won't be doing a show more than likely tomorrow. With all the day games, it makes it more difficult. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for future content. And I'll see you guys on Monday for more MLB props. Good luck today, and I'm out. Peace.